Alrighty, guys. So I am going to share screen, get this thing started. 2 o'clock. Try to get you in and out as they come. So thank you guys very much for coming today for the choice boards. I really hope that you'll find something useful here and that you will be able to, just if anything, just learn something new or possibly think about maybe this is something you've seen before, and maybe it'll just add, one little nugget to what you already know how to do. Today we're talking about choice boards. Choice boards are normally seen more in the elementary, so the focus today was to try to include the secondary as much as possible. So I did have a secondary focus, but at the same time, it's very much a, K-12 tool that can be used. All right, so some of the objectives or roadmaps today, I have my ICANN statements in here. By the end of this, you should be able to describe what a choice board is, explain kind of some of the benefits of using choice boards, and then also, have somewhat of an understanding of how to create a choice board, know how to do that, and list some of the elements in it. And then also be able to identify some of the different types of choice boards that are there. Now, once upon a time in Thailand, long ago, I believe it was like 2015 or so, I was doing a presentation for NISA, anyone who's worked in the NISA region. It was kind of like this TTT thing that we're doing now, but it was, a few people from each school submitted and were selected to present. So I was fortunate enough to do that. And I presented there on a topic that I called Project Matrix. And basically what I was doing was, my goal was to just kind of share some of the transformative learning that was, happening in my classroom. This learning was, very creative. It was collaborative when it needed to be collaborative, and independent when I wanted it to be independent. The students were, leveraging technology in a really fun and cool way. There was a very high engagement level that prior to me using the matrix style, it just wasn't as engaging. The work was very innovative and also was very student driven. So those were all like kind of key components that I was just really, excited about and wanted to share. And here's just a few of those examples. I kind of pulled those out of the old Google Drive there. But these are all just, student creations. And how this happened was, I created something called the Matrix. And basically what the Matrix was my attempt at putting all the standards and the learning objectives into one place, and then having, autonomy, and having the students, really just facilitating work and having them demonstrate their understanding to me, and doing so in a way to where it wasn't me saying, you have to do it this one way, everyone's doing the exact same way, but really kind of opening it up. And I later found that what I was labeling a matrix, other people knew it as choice boards. And I'm not saying I completely invented this, because choice boards have, probably been around much before I did. It was just, actually the conversation happened in 2010 or something when I was in Qatar, working with a really good co-teacher of mine named Richard Meller, great guy. So anyways, what is a choice board? So really what a choice board is, it's essentially a grid that you create, and it's based off of different AFLs and AOLs that all are held within one unit. So you go into your Rubicon, you have one unit of study, and it's all the different AFLs and OLs that you like to see, or as ideas that kids could potentially make. And then how you create those AFL, obviously you're going to go into your standards, you're going to go into your unit, see how the unit goes, and you're going to break those standards down into ICANN statements, so you know exactly what you want your students to learn how to do. And then these squares are, breaking down into sections. The way I structured it, I put squares into different sections. And we'll speak about that in a second. And there's a variety of options of different kinds of tasks that students can do to kind of demonstrate their understanding. Really, I was trying to highlight, or in choice boards, you want to highlight flexibility with expectation. So you want to make sure that students are doing things to a certain standard, but at the same time, you want to give them the flexibility to really try to be independent and try to spearhead and own the work that they're doing. I found the most success when allowing for collaboration in the board, finding different sections where I would say this particular type of AFL or OL, mostly AFL, is collaborative. So find partners to do this. And then, you also have independent work that you'd have there as well. I've also done both in class and at home. So on both styles, or blending both, they both work equally as well, because you could have some sectors where you have it at home and some in classroom. And when you do it in class, it's great because that collaborative piece really comes to life, because they organically form these groups to do their work with. And then the big thing is facilitation. So getting away from you being the center of the universe and allowing students to own their learning and to branch off and do what they think they're interested in. So if you're asking yourself, why would I want to use a choice board? My big three things that I found from using them, the first thing is just higher levels of engagement. So if anyone's listened to the TED Talk, they did an RSA animate on it called, I think it's like the Art of Motivation or something like that. But it's Daniel Pink's talk, and within that talk he breaks down what are the three key elements for motivation in people. And the three key elements are autonomy, which is self-direction, students being able to choose the kind of things they want to learn about or practice on. Mastery is practicing something that you are interested in and getting better at it. And then purpose, having a reason for doing it. So with choice boards, you can really blend them to have all three of these facets: autonomy, mastery, and purpose. Another reason, a big reason, is more learning equity. So there's this kind of funny cartoon here where the teacher's saying, for a fair selection, everybody has to take the same exam. Please climb that tree. And obviously you have a monkey, an elephant, a fish, a goat, a snake, a seal, or whatever. So obviously there's the animals represent our students, and we all have, different skills that we have, or interests. So by allowing a choice board, students are able to gravitate towards skills that they feel more comfortable with or feel they have. And then with that comes this agency that really blossoms, and students will pretty much wow you, because they're going to use those skills that you may never even knew they had, and just really take it to the next level. In the picture here, you can see these girls, they did this rendition of an old minor song. They'll blow you away. I had kids who were really good at origami, and it's crazy what the talent the students will have, and they'll showcase. So how do you do it? Well, like I said, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to go into your Rubicon. You're going to obviously, know your units are, know your standards, and break those standards down into I can statements. And, just think about, what do you want your students to learn? And then at that same time, once you kind of have that part down, you want to look for opportunities for cross-curricular. Now, if you're a multi-subject teacher, you're already doing cross-curricular work, or you have the opportunity to do cross-curricular work all the time. In this example right here, I was teaching fourth grade at the time, but, we were studying, rock study. And at the same time, we were in social studies, we were doing the Bear Flag Republic and the gold rush. So, gold, the mineral, earth, okay, it makes sense. That's something that you can do. But if you're in the secondary, you might be studying geology, and you might reach out to the English teachers and just ask, what novel are you guys studying, or what are you guys working on? And then, see if you can find some commonality to where you can kind of bring in other facets of other classes that are being taught. just so the kids find greater purpose in the work that they're doing, that there isn't such a silo. And then I've also seen teachers who've taken the matrix or taken choice boards and then did co-teaching for actually an entire semester. Like they took it to the next level. So there's definitely opportunities for you in the secondary to take advantage of cross-curricular work, even if you're not teaching that particular subject. Now, once you have those standards and you know what you're going to teach in your unit, I found the most success by breaking it into parts, like chunking it, and then moving from there. So I have my Gold Rush and Rock Study here, and then I have part 1, which I have the California missions, and then broke it down into I can statements. Okay, I can identify the primary features of mission life, blah, 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 blah. Then I do it for part 2, part 3, part 4. So that's the first thing. You take your unit, you break your unit into parts that fit onto your choice board. And there'll be questions, a question segment at the end if this doesn't make entire sense to you. And I apologize if I'm going too fast. Once you have your section, you then, I like to go with a reading, writing 2D and 3D component. However, I'm going to give an example later, which doesn't necessarily follow this, and that's intentional, just so you can see that it doesn't have to necessarily follow reading, writing 2D or 3D, but I just found the most success using that. So I might be like, okay, reading, I want you to read, pages 10 to 25 in the book. It's okay to have that traditional style of instruction or facilitation of work. Then with writing, I'm like, okay, maybe the English teacher's doing, personal narratives. So I'll have them write a personal narrative as if they are Native American, day in the life. For 2D, it can be a large amount of different things, but for 2D it would be something like on the screen or paper. So I create a website on the architecture and materials needed to build a California mission. And 3D would be like either to use something with your hands for them to build like a replica model, something with clay. I've had kids make jewelry, or it could be something where they're building something 3-dimensional online, whether that's like using Minecraft, there's SketchUp. There's a lot of different programs that you can use. There's some animation tools that you can use as well that can kind of showcase that spatial strength or awareness that kids have. And then you want to make sure you're inserting your learning options as these AFLs or AOLs, depending on the tasks that you're asking kids to do, because they don't have to be all AFLs or all AOLs. Definitely not all AOLs. Mm-hmm. So here's just, again, an example of a blueprint. So I'd have my unit, a whole unit would be reading, writing, 2D, 3D, section 1, section 2, section 3, and 4. Or if you wanted to just focus on one particular section or one particular learning target, you could put that in the center and then just have a series of different activities that kind of correlate with that learning target. And then, put some rules on the board and say, okay, you have to make like a tic-tac-toe, or you have to, choose 3 or something like that, or choose 2 or choose 1. So that's kind of up to you. But you're just allowing them to kind of choose different types of ways to showcase their understanding. And then another thing is that, I've found that some of the best projects and best work that we came across as a class wasn't an idea that I had, it was an idea that they had. So if a student is like, I'm a really good painter and I'm really good at making these little, I paint trains with my dad on the weekend. Can I do something like that for the 3-dimensional blah, blah, blah? And you're like, all right, cool. And you just let them do it. It's crazy the amount of engagement that they'll have. And, they really own the work that they do. And they really put in that extra effort, and they're using a skill that they're passionate about. So it's like they're still, showcasing and demonstrating their understanding, but just in a way that, best suits them. So I always have a section on my choice boards where it says, if you have your own idea, talk to me about it, and let's see if we can fit it in. Now, some quick FAQs, in case you're wondering, what is the choice board or how does it work? Does your instruction change with choice boards? And the answer is no. I mean, you're going to instruct the same way you always instruct. You have your, 8 to 15-minute lecture. You're giving it to them, and then you send them off doing a task that they normally would do in class. But you can make it so that you can, during that time, you can say, okay, go ahead and get out your choice boards and start working. Or it could be like, every Friday they do their choice boards or something like that. Or if you have downtime, pull out your choice board. So it just depends on how you want to blend that. The next one here is, how much instruction do you give students on choice boards? So again, you want to have an expectation where you're ensuring that there's, your students are doing the work, that they're putting in the effort, that there's certain minimums that are being met. But at the same time, you don't want to get into a position where you're putting them in a box and not allowing them to, really showcase what they know and understand. It's almost like if they have to draw a picture, you can say, one second, I have another person who has their mic on there. Okay. So you want to give students the ability to be creative and autonomous, but have some minimum expectations. Essentially get out of their way. Now, if you notice within that unit, I had 4 sections, and with those 4 sections, we might be talking about section 1, but maybe a student jumps ahead to section 3. Am I okay with that? The answer is yes. If a student wants to start working and learning ahead proactively, I'm fine with it, because I know all I care about is by the end of this unit, they need to know all these different standards and have all these I can statements mastered. So if they're jumping ahead because, they are really excited about that part, that's fine. So long as they get through all the work that they need to get through and all the expectations that you have for the board. And then again, depending on, when do they actually do the choice boards, you can set a time that you really like. It could be, after you instruct, it could be free time. It could be a certain day at a certain time. You could send it for homework. It's kind of up to you. I found, again, success doing it both ways. When you have it in class, it's much easier for collaboration. Plus you can kind of walk around and engage what kids are doing, and, kind of chime in and help a little bit, guide. But if you want to send it home, that's also works perfectly well. Some more things to kind of consider with choice boards. I like to give the full 4 units or the full 4 sections, the whole thing, the shebang on day 1. Like, all right, guys, we're starting a new unit, and here's your choice board. We might go through it a little bit, but I just kind of give it to them in case they want to jump on it and get started. They can, and after a while they get used to it and they know what to do. They usually normally do. They're all excited about it. And as I try to add new activities and different ideas on there, they all start talking like, oh, let's work with me on this, or let's do this. And then let's say there's a particular activity that's in this like on the Gold Rush column, but you want to apply it to the Mexican rule column. You can allow for that flexibility. It's up to you. You want to ensure minimum. So you might want to say, okay, everyone has to have at least one thing done on each section and one thing done for reading, writing, 2D and 3D. So you have to do one of each and one of each column. And then you can also set some rules to your board where I would actually, depending on the challenge of the activity, I would actually weight it by points. That wouldn't be their grade. It would just be more of like, you have to have this many points to complete the board. Because if not, you'll have people going to the path of least resistance and doing all the kind of like easy assignments and being like, okay, I did the board. Another thing is let the work trickle in. So if on the second day, someone comes in with a project because they stayed up all night doing it because they're just so excited about it, let them turn it in straight away. And then what you do is you let them talk about it. You celebrate it. You let them show the class if they feel comfortable doing so. That builds their communication skills. And then that just inspires other kids. So as it's happening, and then what I did was I'd actually keep it in the room. And then after I kept it in the room, at the end of the unit, we'd clear it all out. But by the end of the unit, our room would just be full of all these different artifacts and learning that was happening. So the room really became the students' room, not mine. It was, at the beginning of the year, it was beginning of the unit would be very empty. And by the end, it was just full of stuff. And then again, allow for a collaboration. So make sure you have 1 or 2 activities that you write in. that there's a collaborative piece, because that fits just really nicely with our global competencies, and you want to encourage that teamwork. So here's an example really quickly of one that's for math, because I think high school math would be one that's kind of challenging. I can envision in my mind a former math teacher at this school who would say, "Oh, that's stupid. Why would I want to do that? It's not for math. I'm an IB and blah, blah, blah." So I was really trying to think in my mind, okay, how can I make this for high school math? So here you can see it says the 3 tiers I broke it down was practice, transfer, and create. So I have the I can statements for each section, and I got this from the Aero standards. And then for the practice, I just have the traditional, okay, do your math practice, pages 108 to 110, problems 1 through 30. And you can make a board minimum where you have to do all of the practice. But then you could also say, okay, I want you to do at least 1 transfer, and I want you to do at least 1 create. And then, here for your transfer, you have make a Khan Academy video, right? You guys can read it. But either way, you're just giving them options to demonstrate their understanding, more so than just a worksheet. And again, they get to be autonomous. They can showcase their own skills. You leave a place in there where they can showcase it in their own way. And yeah, it's great. And then again, I also have the got an idea, come see me, because that's very important, because there might be a kid in high school who just loves music, plays music all the time. And he might be like, well, actually, the way I best remember this formula is by making a rap song or a rock song or whatever. Is it okay for my create, I share with the class this rap or rock song that I made, and I just perform it in front of the class? And that's something that I've had kids do, and it turned out to be pretty awesome. And then even I'll start, humming the tune. So just an example. Here's another piece that you want to include with your choice boards. And I didn't include it on the choice board because, it just depends on where you want to place it. But basically, you want to ensure you leave a space where students can reflect on their work and their projects. So you can either have a running doc for like each unit. If you have Seesaw, you can have it on there, and they're just taking pictures on their Seesaw of all the projects that they're doing. You can kind of determine where you want that to be. You want to make sure there's a spot where you can give teacher feedback. If you wanted to have the rubric and just have the running record of the rubric, the running record of the reflections and your feedback on that form, you could make an extension on your choice board if you choose to do it with a Google Doc. There's also a place where you should leave where students can create goals for their projects. And it could be just hitting a certain number or a certain weight, or, trying to really do something they never thought they'd ever do, like make a song about something or code something or something like that. And then also you want to make sure you have some sort of rubric, a grading rubric that could be universal for all projects, but then again, hits that minimum expectation where students can, you're ensuring the quality of work that comes in. Because the worst thing is when you get like kind of crap work, and then if there isn't a minimum expectation, they're kind of like, well, what do you mean I did it? You want to make sure that students are meeting that. And I think when you present work, when kids are presenting their work or students are presenting their learning, they all kind of get that sense of like, okay, there's an accountability piece here because we're building this learning community, we're sharing with each other. And if I do like bad work, I know I'm gonna have to present it, and I'll be, not as proud of it, I guess you could say. So quickly to recap, select your units, divide your unit into sections and I can statements. Check with your colleagues, see if there's any cross-curricular opportunities. Then you're gonna brainstorm different ideas, creating a TikTok video for this or blah, 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 blah. Once you fill out your board, you wanna weigh your board to ensure that your students are doing all the different kinds of activities that you want them to do. And then you're gonna present the board at the very beginning of the unit, allowing students the maximum amount of time to get excited about the learning, to start jumping ahead and working on their projects and turning stuff in. And then there's different kinds of boards. So obviously there was the Cobb's matrix style, the read, write, 2D, 3D style. You could do like a bingo style. So a bingo style would be one that's this one right down here. This is where like they have to get a certain amount like in a row or whatever. You could also do one that is the Bitmoji board. So I just borrowed one from my wife here. It's not a Bitmoji board, but it could look like that, where you have, these are all clickable items here. You could do tic-tac-toe, where they have to get, you know, a certain amount in a row, or they have to do one of each, something like that. Another really cool one is if you do the multiple intelligence one. So some people are, you know, let's say they have, you know, high interpersonal skills, you know, like the people who were here last year, they knew Andrew Bauman, he's that interpersonal type of guy. Or, you know, or you could do like a logical intelligence, you know, the mathematical person who wants to really be calculated. You can kind of curtail your boards to those type of people or that type of group. Or again, you can have, you know, a singular focus board, like I was showing you before. At the very least, if the choice board is too much, the very least you can do is give some choice, where, you know, instead of reading an article, you know, they can listen to a podcast, or, you know, instead of working alone, they can work in a group. You know, I stole this from Caitlin Tucker. She just recently posted this on Twitter. She called it Would You Rather, but it was just very timely, just because it's like a baby step in this process could just be allowing for some choice, because when you give those choices to people, they get even the smallest amount of ownership. They're just going to do a better job of it. I mean, I do it with my 5-year-old all the time. Do you want, you know, carrots or broccoli? And even if they're not really into it, they'll still at least have some buy-in. So any questions on the choice board here? Let me see. I can't see anyone. We're still here.
Robbie, are you going to share this with us?
Yeah, let me go ahead and I'll share the presentation. And then the next slide here is, you know, let's make one. So in the chat, I am going to, let me stop share. I'm going to go ahead and add it to the chat here. So I'm going to present really quickly so you guys can see this for yourselves. It's been pretty quiet, so I'm hoping that, please shout out if you have any questions or comments. If that made sense, because with no feedback, can I just get a thumbs up if that kind of made sense? Yes, a little bit. All right, perfect. Thank you. And then here is the, I'm going to add this one here. Here is the link for, if you wanted to start your own choice board, you can just go in there, make a copy of it, and then I just kind of did one for you, and you can add to it. So there's choice board, and there is the presentation itself, and that's about 30 minutes. Any other questions? If you get to a point where you're creating this board and you're like, man, what can I put here? Come see the tech integrators, come see the tech department. You talk to Melissa, talk to your colleagues. I mean, really, the best thing you could do is brainstorm, because there's gonna be some great ideas that people have that you may not have. And you never know what can come of it. Alrighty, well, thank you guys very much for paying attention. Sorry I spoke the entire way through. I know it was a lot to get through, and thank you so much for being here this afternoon. Have a good one, and thanks for watching.
Bye-bye. Thank you.